Have you ever felt betrayed in the deepest and most cruel way? That betrayal didn't come from a stranger, nor did it come from malicious neighbors. It came from the man you love and trust the most in the world. Ever since the horrifying sound of the shattering glass that gloomy afternoon, the air in this house felt completely drained. It was thick, suffocating, and reeked of hostility. After my eyes and Madame Land's met among the broken pieces, I panicked and ran upstairs to my room. I locked myself inside those four narrow walls, hugging my knees on the bed, counting every second, waiting for Min to come home from work. In that storm of ultimate humiliation and isolation, I waited for his footsteps like a desperate, drowning person waiting for their only life preserver. As soon as the bedroom door opened and closed behind Min, all my suppressed emotions shattered. I ran to him, sobbing like a child. I held tightly onto his wrinkled shirt, trembling as I told him the whole story. I repeated every cruel insult, every mocking laugh from his mother and the neighbors that I had accidentally overheard. My heart screamed for protection. I was so sure that upon hearing my dignity being trampled on, Min would be furious. I thought he would hold me and immediately march downstairs to get justice and protect his poor wife's honor. But his reaction in that moment was like a bucket of ice-cold water slapped right into my tear-drenched face. Instead of getting angry, instead of feeling the pain of his wife's bleeding heart, Min just let out a long, heavy sigh. He slowly took a step back, loosened his tie with an incredibly tired and annoyed look. He reached out, awkwardly and superficially rubbing my back, and began to pour out the same empty, familiar excuses. Emily, Mom is old. Her mindset is from the past. She was just gossiping and chatting for fun with the neighbors. There's no bad intention. Don't be so sensitive and hold a grudge. It will just tire you out. In Vietnam, the culture of older people is to be curious and judgmental like that. You are in a new home. You have to adapt to our customs. Every word he spoke made my heart sink into a bottomless pit. He completely didn't see his mother in the wrong. In his eyes, the act of insulting his wife was just culture, just chatting for fun. And I, the victim of those toxic words, became the narrow-minded one, overreacting and refusing to understand his family's so-called customs. Dinner that night took place right after that disappointing conversation. It was covered in a dead silence, so heavy that even the sound of chewing felt deafening. Madame Land sat at the head of the table, her face dark with murderous anger. She kept slamming her bowls and chopsticks hard against the aluminum tray, creating threatening clanking sounds. Clearly, she was still bitter and angry that I broke the glass that afternoon, ruining her gathering. And then she decided to find another excuse to publicly attack me right at the dining table, in front of her son. Her glaring eyes slid from my face, then stopped at the loungewear I was wearing. It was just a simple V-neck t-shirt and cool, soft linen shorts, a totally normal, comfortable outfit that any girl in America would wear in the summer. However, she sneered. She began to criticize me in an incredibly sarcastic, piercingly high-pitched voice. She criticized my style as revealing, ridiculous, lacking self-respect, and said that my appearance was smearing the reputation and staining the traditions of a proper, educated family like hers. Unable to keep my head down and endure that unreasonable control and extreme scrutiny anymore, I decided to fight back. I took a deep breath, slowly putting my chopsticks down on the tray. With all my remaining self-control, I tried to use English in a polite but firm way. I looked straight into her eyes, calmly explaining through Min's translation that the summer weather here was too hot and suffocating, and this was completely modest, normal loungewear in my country. It didn't violate any moral standards. But before I could even finish my second sentence, Madame Land brutally cut me off. She slammed her chopsticks down on the table with a loud smack. She leaned forward, pointing her bony finger right at my face, her eyes bloodshot. She gritted out every single Vietnamese word sharp as a razor, piercing straight into my brain. You are uneducated. You have no one to teach you. Min, who was picking up food, suddenly froze stiff. His hand shook. He and I both understood the absolute gravity of that statement. In any culture, dragging someone's parents into an insult, attacking the parents and the upbringing of someone else's family, is always a forbidden boundary, a bloody red line that must never be crossed. The exact moment those cruel words rang out, my throat choked up bitter like I had swallowed broken glass. A rush of hot air surged to my eyes, but I bit my lower lip so hard it almost bled, refusing to let any weak tears fall in front of this ruthless woman. I slowly, very slowly, turned my face to look at Min. My eyes at that moment no longer held anger, but they contained an ultimate deep hurt and a silent, heart-tearing plea for help. This was the deciding moment, the life or death boundary of this marriage. I needed my husband to speak up. I needed him to stand up like a real man to protect the honor of my father and mother halfway across the world. I needed him to draw a clear line, firmly telling his mother, "She can hate me, but she absolutely has no right to insult my family," I told myself. If he just says one word, if he just stands by my side this one time, I am willing to close my eyes and endure every torture, every bitterness in this house for him. Time in the dining room at that moment seemed to stop. Every ticking second dragged on like a century of torture. I held my breath, waiting, but Min chose to shrink back into his cowardly shell of weakness. He slowly lowered his head, completely avoiding my sharp, desperate eyes glued to him. His trembling hands picked up a piece of lifeless food, hurriedly shoving it into his mouth. He mumbled a few words in a weak, pitiful voice. "All right, Mom. Just eat. Emily, you eat too. Please, can you two just stop fighting?" His silence in the face of his wife's pain, and that cowardly, compromising attitude, was exactly like a fatal, cold knife stabbed straight into the center of my heart. All my trust, all my final hopes for a man who could protect me completely collapsed, shattered into tiny pieces. There was nothing left to save. I stood up abruptly, forcefully pushing the wooden chair back so it fell with a loud crash. Leaving the half-eaten meal, leaving those two blood relatives behind, I turned my back and ran straight up to my room, slamming the door and locking it tight. In that quiet, dark night, hugging my knees on the cold floor, I officially realized a cruel truth. I am completely alone, totally isolated in this unequal battle. Answer me. If the husband you left your whole homeland to follow chooses to stay silent when your parents' dignity is trampled on, do you still have enough faith, enough blindness to keep walking in this marriage?